Hello, everybody, and welcome to the As You Are podcast. My name is Leslie Vander, and we're here for the opener of season 3.
Season 3.
With all of our amazing coaches,
That's
Kathleen,
right.
Adam, Libby.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Leslie.
You're here too.
I'm here too. And I'm super excited to kick this next season off. We didn't know. We asked that question of like, okay, after 2 seasons, let's see what we got. Let's see how it's going. And I think we all kind of consensus decided.
Yeah.
It made a lot of sense for us to keep going.
The people want it.
They want
to say it too.
People have been asking. Where
and there
are they?
are people.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny when you run into somebody either that you know or somebody that you kind of know peripherally, and then they say something like, "Hey, I've been listening to your podcast." It's always, it's always kind of a nice feeling that there's some added value or that they're, looking forward to it or, whatever. And so
when there are really some fascinating people coming up on this.
Oh my goodness.
Fascinating people, fascinating stories and ventures and entrepreneurialism and all those kinds of things coming up in this next several weeks.
I mean, I really, really can't wait. I think we've got a Broadway star coming up. We have a founder of a smart toilet company.
Yeah, we do.
We have the president of the board of directors for Zilker Hillside Theater coming up. We've got a lot of special humans.
Yeah, I love it. It's kind of that like intersection of the entrepreneurs, but then also we have, of course, because of all of us, we have people in the arts community as well. So I think it's very cool guest.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that's so interesting about it is that it always
intersects in so many things.
Right?
That is, I think, the thing that has been so cool is you could be talking to someone, as we have talked to, CEOs of different companies, and then talk to someone that's, starring on Broadway, and all the things that are the same as far as, how they got to where they are, the work that they have to put in, how they maybe didn't see exactly what they wanted, and how they had to, forge their own path.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's always that story of just like, what's the gap? How do we fill it? Right. I think that's something that we talk about quite frequently.
Well, I think it's fun that a lot of the people that we have on are people that we have known or that one or more of us has known for years. And we always seem to hear stories about other parts of their lives and interests. And I think it's so easy, especially when you're a coach, to just be so myopic in focus about one aspect of that person's career or things like that. And so then when you get to hear all of these other things that even after years you had no idea, that's in itself a really cool thing, I think. So not only people listening at home or wherever they are on their commute, et cetera, but us here. It's just a fun thing to get to come here and know that you're going to get to know more about what's behind somebody's, aspects of what we get to see.
Yeah. I would jump on that too and think about our networks, just how rich a network is and how it's rich beyond even what you would expect. So as we're talking about who all the guests are and seeing these other facets of them, how much just reaching out or engaging in a conversation can be so rich.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how often do you get to sit down with somebody for, 45 minutes uninterrupted and just like ask them questions and learn more about them? It's interesting. Like people that we've known for years and years and years, to your point, Adam, you just get to really know them at a deeper level,
Totally.
I would also say that's what coaching is.
Yeah, I was like, or you can have a coaching session.
100%.
We can talk for 45 minutes uninterrupted.
But
exactly.
Right, this idea of like spending concentrated time with the person, asking questions, learning more about them.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you on that,
Kathleen. Yes.
You as a coach specifically, because I know we all have our own, just like any career, any kind of way we come at anything, we all have our own approaches and things. You as a coach, Kathleen, how does that time that you get to spend asking questions of an individual seem to manifest in sort of the practicalities of your work? I mean, I know it's different for everybody, obviously, but what are some of the ways that you find that to be helpful?
Well, I have been told by people in this room that my superpower is making space for people.
It's true.
Very true.
Yeah. So I think in creating that space, what it means for the person on the other side to be able to come fully and in ways they don't necessarily expect. And that for me, it's really easy to see, what are the steps forward? What is our strategy when you give that space for the other person to express that amount? I'm not coming in with a prescribed, this is the plan at the onset. right? Making space for that other person where it then unveils itself. This is what the plan is.
Absolutely. What
Yeah.
about you, Leslie?
I think similarly, right? Like the thing is I think we're all pretty similar in the way that we think about, okay, I have to get a really clear understanding of what the goal is or what it is that somebody is wanting to achieve, whether that's from a big picture perspective, like I want this organization to be, massive and huge and to touch all of these different customers, to like today I'm struggling with managing my calendar, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of dependent on what their goal is, but once we have a clear understanding of that, and we have a clear understanding of where they are and then what challenges they've faced in kind of achieving whatever that ultimate goal is, then we can get really purposeful about what is the prescription, or how do we kind of move forward to move past any roadblocks or obstacles that are in their way to get to whatever that goal is. And I think, to Kathleen's point, a lot of times we're just whack-a-moling. We just kind of walk through life with just like, oh, here's another thing I got to fix. Here's another challenge that's come up. Here's another roadblock that I'm dealing with again. But the opportunity in a coaching relationship is to really slow down and say, okay, rather than just whack-a-moling all day, how do we kind of solve this problem or be more strategic in managing what we want, so that those whack-a-mole things don't happen as often. We can be more efficient with the time that we actually have to achieving whatever that goal is. And so that's what I would say.
Yeah. And I feel like with that too, that there's always going to be the whack-a-mole, and how to be still intentional, and even how to respond to those whack-a-mole situations where oftentimes if you're only seeing the whack-a-mole, which is kind of fun to say over and over again.
Right.
More whack-a-mole.
If it's only like, here's this issue, here's this issue, and if it evokes some sort of emotional response, how to be able to take those moments in and to feel like you have control over it, not just in what you do, but in how you react to it.
Yeah, one of the things that we talk a lot about is the difference between being tactical and being strategic. Is like, tactical, we're just solving the problem that's in front of us. Being strategic is when we're like looking at the larger picture and saying, okay, how do we solve this from actually happening in the first place? And yes, the whack-a-mole is unavoidable, but if we're being really thoughtful and purposeful about being proactive rather than reactive, then, we have more space and capacity to solve other big problems, or to go figure out what the next goal is or whatever. And I think that's essentially what we think of when we're thinking of how do we solve, how do we work with a client? How do we help them achieve what they want in their world?
And I think there's no one size fits all. I mean, every client is different, has a different, and I think, for me, where a lot of my clients are like looking for jobs or trying to transition into a new role. So yes, the goal for a lot of them is similar.
What's the new job? Yeah.
But the way we get there is different, and the
And
reasons
what obstacles
and what
they have.
obstacles.
Right.
Yeah, and it's different for everyone. And so I think that that's, something going into a call with someone, asking those questions, really figuring out where they are, where they're trying to go, and then, starting to work on what that plan looks like, but not coming to it as have I got a plan for you?
Yeah.
Like, listen up.
Yeah. What about you, Adam?
Yeah.
I think for me, a large part of the question asking process tends to come back to helping someone to, whether it's in a formal way or in a less formal way, sort of formulate and look at their mission, vision, and values as an individual, insofar as that relates to the work that they are hoping to achieve in that coaching relationship. Because I think so often, particularly as someone who deals so much with the voice and with physicality and with presence and all of those sorts of things, I think that a lot of those things are pretty abstract to a lot. I mean, the voice is an abstract thing in and of itself. So I think because I'm dealing with something that's already very abstract, helping to hone down that work a little bit by talking a little bit more about, well, as a person and as a professional, what are your both aspirational and sort of current mission, vision, values, and how can we use that as a framework to help construct our path forward? Because I think a lot of people that we work with are very familiar with the process, or at least the existence of mission, vision, and values work, but they might think of that as on more of an institutional level and less on a personal level.
What do I stand for personally?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that just that mind shift for a lot of people is a big part of it, but then also the process of actually saying this isn't something that only needs to be done at an organizational level, but that can be done at an individual level, and that you are worthy of that work as well as a big institution is worthy of that work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Something that you just said, Adam, just around the question asking process that's coming up for me, and I know it's true for all of us, is, when you ask questions and when you come to the table with that like childlike curiosity, it really allows us to understand our clients at a deeper level. And I think the reality is that it's human nature to come to the table with assumptions, right? I can assume that this is what you want to achieve. I can assume that when you say that this is your obstacle, I can kind of fill in all the blanks to make a more like holistic picture, a better understanding of it. And the opportunity that we have around all of this question asking is to understand your specific challenge, your specific obstacle, your specific circumstance that might not have been given the space in the first place, right? And just sometimes in asking those questions, a lot of discovery from the client starts to occur, right?
I mean, how many times have you had a client be like, no one's ever asked me that?
Right.
And it's something that is very like, what do you want? What do you want your next job to be? Or like, what do you see yourself doing? And they're like, no one's ever asked me.
Right, right. I'm frustrated with the situation. Well, what's causing your frustration?
What?
I
And
don't
just these moments.
actually know. Let me like slow down for a minute and like think about what is actually causing the frustration in the first place. Because sometimes we just like walk through, we're going so fast that we haven't had enough time to kind of slow down and really like reflect on these things.
I also think, kind of running with this further, I like the what's causing the frustration. And I also like the question of what would not being frustrated look like. Because I think there is an element that people can have of just like, oh, I've accepted this thing that actually you don't have to accept. It is not necessarily inevitable. You have the agency. And I think being able to visualize something is a huge part then in being able to achieve it.
Yeah. I love that.
Well, along those lines, I have another question.
Ooh,
You're just so good with
Adam.
questions.
Came with the
I don't know.
questions
Speaking of
today.
questions.
I don't know. If someone, and I think we all probably have gotten this question or have gotten it by proxy in some way. But if someone were to come to you and say, "Oh, well, I already have a therapist. Why do I need a coach? Or what would I gain from like a coaching relationship? I already go to therapy."
It's great.
Yeah.
What would
Great question.
It is a great question.
What's your answer?
We're all like,
We're like,
turn it over,
Kathleen. I think
Yeah.
Kathleen can answer it the best.
Yeah, I mean, I have been really adamant that like it doesn't have to be one or the other. It is a yes and situation. You can, and I do believe therapy is good, have a therapist and a coach. Where one of the big distinctions I would bring to it is a therapist is going to go more into the clinical side of things. A therapist is going to work through traumas, for instance, and will go through the past in really specific ways. But like as a coach, I am not going in and asking like, tell me more about where the trauma comes from. Like, was that something that happened with your parents at a young age? What we're focused on is where are you right now and where do you want to go? And it is very much with those actionable steps forward. Furthermore, I mean, it's just the like, I work with people who are working through anxiety, but I'm not working with people who have general anxiety disorder. I'm not working with people who are unable to get out of bed at any point. I'm working with people who are waking up and saying, yeah, I'm having a hard time getting up, but I get up. I just want to figure out how to do that in a more sustainable way, as like an example that I'd bring to it. So it's a yes, and I do have clients who work with both. I actually have clients who are also therapists. So like, also I'm a coach with a therapist. This is like, it's a whole, as I'm discovering this, as I'm saying it out loud, it comes back to the whole person, right? We can be working on ourselves across the board in a variety of ways. And we need to get our needs met. We need to get our needs met also from a variety of sources. And I think too, for people who maybe start with a coach, they can discover, hey, maybe I also need a therapist. And I think the other side of it is true too, with like working with clients who have struggled with therapy in the past because what they're actually seeking is a coach.
Mhm.
They're seeking someone who's going to ask more of those challenging questions and have expectations that are more pressing and getting to that next step.
Mhm.
Does that answer?
It does answer the question for me. Yeah. I think we also probably all have like a version of that
Yeah.
answer as
Yeah.
well.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
agree. I mean, I think that therapy is great, coaching is great. I think it's just different.
Results.
You're getting different results, and I think both are very needed. It's just, what what are you trying to do? What is the
Mhm.
goal?
Yeah.
Well, and I would, and maybe this is an inaccurate thing to say because I'm sure it would come up in a therapy session potentially, but I doubt that someone, perhaps in your example, that is looking for help with resume,
Yeah.
help with, they're probably
Mhm.
unlikely to go to a therapist first for that
Don't
kind of
ask
help.
your therapist to help you with your resume.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and what can occur in a coaching session is that there may be something
Mhm.
deeper seated
Yeah.
that happens as you're going through the process of applying for a job where maybe there's depression there. Maybe there is something that's clinical that is needed that is causing this like kind of surface level need or desire, which is I want a new job or I'm unhappy with my job.
But then you do some digging
And then
and figure out that there is like a depression and not wanting to or not having the ability to apply to jobs because it
Mhm.
just gets overwhelming, and having that then the overwhelm manifests. And so, but that's something as a coach, you know, being able to handle.
Yep.
Is this just do we just need to fix your resume and put together a plan, or do we need to like focus on what is keeping you from applying to these jobs
Right.
and what is
Mhm.
holding you back, and how do we break that down?
Well, and the great thing is that we're all NLP trained, so that like we have the ability to kind of address some of those things in a moving forward type situation, and we are also trained to say, "This is not for me. This is
That
for a
is, yeah.
therapist."
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, and that's our job,
And
right?
that is our job, right? And I think there is that responsibility to it, and that like someone is not going to have me diagnose them with anything. That is definitely not within my
Yeah.
wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And I think too, running a little bit with what Leslie just said, and for me, when I hear this question, part of how I internalize it is like the responsibility element, that it's like I am responsible for keeping the other person safe.
Mhm.
I'm responsible for you know, wanting what's best for them and knowing too then that there are like limitations that I have, and I don't want to veer into spaces that are unsafe for the other person.
Yeah.
So like I think about that a lot when I have the therapy element come into mind. I want to be responsible. I want to look out for the other person. I want to be able to say when there are moments that's like, hey, actually, this is a really appropriate conversation for a therapist.
Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit more, Leslie? I'm the question person.
I
You
know.
are.
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
how
I know.
this
I'm
came to
about
be.
to ask
ready.
I
some
don't know how this
questions to
came to be.
you.
Well, you mentioned NLP. For people who are listening who don't know
Mm.
about NLP,
Yeah.
what is NLP?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks. Great
Oh.
question. Great question. Well, NLP stands for neuro linguistic programming. And so the idea behind NLP is that we essentially ingest information in a certain way. And then our brains, based on our experiences, our backgrounds, our upbringing, our schooling, our friends, we kind of take all that information in, we program it like a computer would program it, and we internalize things based on what that program is. So because we kind of understand at a very baseline level of that exists, as coaches, we have the ability to kind of ask the questions to allow some deprogramming or some questions that will allow for maybe a new way of thinking or a new way of ingesting that information. And so that's kind of the foundation of, in our opinion, really good coaching, right? Because it offers a new way of being able to think about something, a new way of internalizing things, and a new way of taking action and moving forward, especially when you can kind of get stuck in certain areas. And that's what we're always talking about is,
Feeling stuck.
the stuck. Are you
Yeah.
stuck? Are you feeling stuck? It's time for a coach, because that, because we're processing things the same way over and over and over again, and when we're receiving the same results,
Yeah,
that's
what's
when
the
it's
saying?
time.
Nope. You don't
Yep.
bring up sayings when you don't have it ready to go.
Insanity.
No,
Oh.
well, yes, but it's like doing what you
Is it got you here,
Yes.
but what will get you there?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like
You know.
reading the brain
Yeah,
waves
thanks.
here.
Kathleen and I are on the same wavelength because
Because we are.
we are.
I know I didn't just say the expression, so maybe our friends can help us out with this, that it's like doing what you did got you here, but what's going to get you there?
Requires a different.
Yeah, but there's like a smoother,
There's a
nicer
bumper
way.
sticker.
There is a bumper sticker, maybe a nice magnet.
We'll put those on the Ensō t-shirts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quotes by Libby
Yeah,
that are
thank
not
you.
complete or make sense.
Amazing.
I love it.
So it sounds like there's a lot of overlap then with conscious bias and
100%.
recognizing bias exists,
Yes.
and then sort of how did the way in which I processed lots of information from different stages of my life contribute to innate bias.
Yeah, 100%. And I've got a question for you. Like, how does that show up, Adam, when you're working with people in the voice, which can seem like, oh, you just teach me how to sing pretty, or teach me how to talk pretty, or show up pretty.
Well, so much of it comes back to the experiences that someone had growing up, or growing up is right, I think, at some developmental stage in life, and the reinforcement or lack thereof that they received about their own voice in some circumstance. The vast, vast majority of people that I work with who are coming to me and saying, either I hate my voice, or people have told me I have a bad voice, or I want to make changes with my voice, but I don't know what that means or what that is. Almost all of them have a specific moment that they can point to. And it's not even generically people told me over the years, or my parents discouraged me from. Almost always, each of those people has a very specific incident or moment that they can point back to that was that pivotal moment.
That caused them to believe
That
something.
caused them to believe that, and they have that story. And I think that it's not just like I think Kathleen and I have talked a lot about anxiety and speaking, obviously. And I think that one of the big things that we both really believe is that it's not necessarily about trying to eradicate and get rid of that was redundant, but eradicate your anxiety. That may not be the brass ring or the bullseye that we're going for. And I think similarly, it's not necessarily about trying to unwrap all of that incident that someone had at some point, but to redirect that focus toward, well, what actually goes on for a lot of people when they say things like that to someone else? Do they even understand? What are their qualifications for saying something like that to someone else? How many other people do I have who have a story that is a one-time incident that just completely shifted their thoughts about their own voice? And what are the frameworks and paradigms that we can apply from a very sort of physiological perspective too, and a training perspective, that can help you to achieve the things that you're hoping to achieve? And I always have a big conversation about why someone hopes to change their voice, because the voice is a very personal thing.
Yeah.
And also setting expectations about what can be reasonably achieved from a behavioral perspective. Obviously, there are physiological interventions that can be broached and things like that, but really that should not be done without a good amount of discussion about the reasons why, and to make sure somebody really knows why they might want to make shifts in their way of speaking, because that is your way of being. And so I think that, to me, that's a big way that manifests in my work, specifically with people working with their voices.
Ooh, question for you. Okay, so in an age where so many people, whether it's singing or people speaking, we have access to watching people constantly. How do you handle when you have clients that come to you with maybe unrealistic expectations of what their end result could be? based on what they've been watching and what they've seen.
Well, I think the very first thing to address in that situation, at least in my experience, is to get people to be able to sort of put into words what that thing is that they're watching that they want. Because most people, even if they say, I would like, and honestly, I have very, very, very few people who come to me with like, kind of how you would go to like the hairstylist and be like, these are the photos of
I'd like one Kelly O'Hara, please.
You say Kelly Clarkson.
Exactly. Yeah, well,
I'll take her too.
probably more people listening might
Yes,
know.
yes. Sorry.
You know, no offense to Kelly O'Hara.
Hey.
It's a little bit more of a niche.
Yeah.
So in any case, I actually have very, very few people who come to me and say, here is what I would like. Usually I have to be the one who asks, can you give me a few specific examples, whether it's as a speaker, as a thought leader, as a C-suite leader, as a singer, any of those things. Usually people are less sure what it is. They might say, well, these are 4 people I really like, but I don't know what connects them or, you know. So I think a big part of it, and this is certainly something you do a lot in music school, is you do a lot of listening and a lot of let's put some language behind this that can communicate what it is that I'm hearing or seeing or experiencing.
Yeah.
And I think that the first thing is to say, okay, let's get some language around this so that you have a way to not only communicate what your goals are in this circumstance, but also to envision and build what that is, put out those railroad tracks for yourself. Because without language around it, there is no edifice to build or scaffolding to build those goals on. So that's number one for me. And then after that, then we can talk more about, well, you know, I'm a very like evidence-based, data-driven kind of like person in this work, or at least I try to be. And so then I can say, well, it's not only my opinion that this is where maybe we should go, or maybe it is my professional opinion, but here are sort of the studies, here are the things that have come before that are precedent that can tell you what you might be able to expect. For example, the way that hormones interact with the voice at different stages of the human life cycle, gigantic. And a lot of people don't really realize that, but all the research is there to tell us the specific things that perhaps en masse, not for any individual one person, we might be able to expect. And so you can kind of tell people, on the whole, here are some expectations that we know about from the literature, from the studies. And I think that kind of work is important when you're dealing with something as abstract as the voice.
Yeah. You know, Adam, going back to your point, Adam, you know, I think one of the things that's really cool about the 4 of us is that we're all very creative people intrinsically, just like naturally as humans, we can be creative with our solutions and we can be creative with the people that we work with. But we're also, because we're all experts in our individual areas, we can lean on, to your point, resources that exist that we know of or aware of, or studies or what have you, that we can bring into the fold to be able to share those with our clients. You know, I was thinking back to what you were just talking about around, you know, one pivotal moment, right? Like these one pivotal moments can really kind of cause problems or challenges or obstacles for our clients. And, you know, I have a CEO client who has a lot of issues with trust and with fear. And, you know, it all goes back to what that, you know, again, through unpackaging, through the coaching relationship, it all comes back to this fear of losing everything, this fear of, you know, feeling devalued, and all the work that they put in to build up what they have built is on the hinges of one potential person or 2 potential people. And the benefit of having a coach is to really kind of, to your point out where those thoughts or those ideas or those beliefs have fallacies, and to bring in research, data, etc. So again, like working on the creative side around like, how do we work with this person that has these beliefs that are rooted in their own experiences, but not necessarily rooted in reality.
Right.
And at the same time, be able to provide them with data, resources, things to actually show them that this is what other organizations are doing. This is what other CEOs are doing. This is what other CEOs have done that you're doing that could lead to a failure, so then it's, again, not me as their coach that's telling them this, but it's all of these external resources that we can provide. And so I think that's, just another, being creatives, being people who, really take pride in being an expert in our field, can actually lend, to our clients, that is unique.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Think
love
about
it.
resourcefulness, right?
Resourcefulness. That's right.
That is
Well, I think it's true. It's,
resourcefulness.
there is obviously in any field, there's expertise. And I think that for me, coaching is sort of like, you can't ask, okay, here's an example I'll use.
Oh,
I have some clients, especially in the singing voice world, who are really into like nerding out over like vocal anatomy and physiology and the science behind how all of it works and how phonation works and how all of this stuff, right? And that's awesome. And if that is the way that someone wants to work into discovering their voice and using their voice, then that's great. And we can totally do that. But the vast majority of people really are not as, nerdy about the voice in that way. Now, if like I think there is a small subset of foundational stuff that is very helpful to know for any vocalist about the way that the voice works and et cetera, et cetera. But to go that deep is a small population who sort of wants to work that way, right?
Nerds. No.
Right. Yeah. But I think that for everybody, it's my responsibility to have that knowledge on their behalf.
Mm-hmm.
There's a marginal amount that everyone needs to have, I think. But then beyond that, it's kind of like we didn't all go to medical school.
Right.
We're not all going to be,
Yeah.
that's what we go to the doctor for, is
100%.
their knowledge, right? And I think that is what we bring as coaches, is just industry knowledge, knowledge of bias, knowledge of trends, knowledge of our own specialty areas. And that is, when you say resource, I think that's the number one resource and relevance, maybe. Like that resource and relevance, that then is is probably it for me in terms of this kind of coaching work.
And then I think it comes back to the fact that they're coaching with us, but they are the ones that are having the changes. They are the ones getting the job, having the vocal transformation. I mean, we're asking the questions. We're definitely providing insights and things like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they are the ones that were responsible for the change, right?
For the change, right?
Yeah.
They have to make that choice.
Sure.
And I think that's been, again, well, I mean, we were just talking about this before we went on the air, but we're 2 years and we had a 2-year anniversary. We're 1 year as an entire team, which
I
is
left out
very
my air horn.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, where is that air horn?
Yeah, I know.
But like the fact that we've kind of we're at this 2-year mark, which is really amazing, and I feel so grateful, and I just love you guys so much. That's a side note. But like the thing that's kind of showing up in this process is the kind of clients that we want to choose to and work best with, which is, ones that are really open to kind of looking internally as much as they're looking for an external resource to be able to support them. And when that doesn't exist, it makes the coaching relationship very hard. We call that being coachable, right? But getting clearer on the types of clients and the types of people that really benefit from this type of work. And that's been, that's kind of been a big learning for me over the past couple of years.
Same. I would say learning what types of clients are the ones that, I mean, it's the same with anything. As a therapist, as a hairstyle, like the people that you don't work for everyone, right? And you have to be able to have that kind of, mesh and relationship. And, it's been learning on, I think all of us is just really figuring out the type of people that
fit well,
that are your jam.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Adam? What has been a big learning?
Going on that, I think that's huge. I think, and that's another thing about being a resource, I think, is recognizing when somebody might, even within your field, be better served or fit better with another approach style. Not that we have one approach or anything, any of us, but there are, even in the voice world, there are very specialized approaches that are out there. And you might just recognize in someone once in a while, I really think that like this particular approach that is not what I do might be really helpful to you. And so here's some names of people who do that kind of work. Why don't you go and explore it at least? Because I think that you might really like blossom with this approach. And I think that is part of being a coach too, is knowing when to say there's something else out there that might be a little more hyper specialized, or there are just people who are gurus in a given, method, approach, style that might work really well for you, as opposed to someone who's a little more generalist. And knowing who those contacts are and being able to refer out to those people and make that encouragement on behalf of a client.
Absolutely.
This, the like two quick responses. One, this comes back to the networking thing we were talking about before, your network being richer than we realize and what they bring to the table, but also being a resource. And then the other thing that is true for all of us is still centering the person we're working with, right? I want you to go to that person over there because I think they're really going to be able to serve you the way you need to be served. That it's very people first. And I feel like that's something that I always appreciate about this cohort of people is that like our values really align in wanting to be people first, and that like so long as that's what guides us, then we're making the right decision.
Absolutely. And I think you I don't know if you use the word like recognizing our own limitations. Not even, I don't know that you use the word limitations, but like recognizing like what is it that we are capable of being able to serve our people and being aware of that. But also, to your point, I cannot agree more, Kathleen, that this is all about supporting our clients and making sure that our clients are getting what they need from our relationships. And that means like,
and if it's not you,
our
then
egos get checked at the door.
Cool.
Egos checked at the door 100%.
Every
and
time.
This is all about, it's all about that person that's on the other line with us, or in person or wherever they are.
Yeah. Either way.
Either way, whichever way works best.
Like right before getting here was on a call with someone who was like, okay, but do I have to do it like this? And I'm like, it's what's good for you.
We can do it however you want.
We can hear these options. What works for you?
Yeah.
I think it's hard for people to believe that in today's day and age when so little is truly that way.
That's so true.
Yeah. But I mean, I know you have a client that's like, I don't want to, like, I just want to do a phone call.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You have one.
I have one client. I've been working with this person for 2 years. I have never seen his face except on Facebook. Never seen his face.
Yeah.
But we I've got to do what I need to do to make sure that I'm fully
like
present.
An AI bot.
Yeah, it's not
And
even
you're being
real.
catfish.
I'm one of those picture puzzle things. Point out all the bad.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Leslie's client.
I would never know.
Yeah.
Just like walking by, if I ran into him on the streets, I'd never know who he was.
But it is. I mean, I think that goes back to everything being tailored and customized. No one size fits all. So however you want to show up. I mean, I have a client that is always like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I look ridiculous this morning. I'm like, I literally don't care. Like, you could show up, wear your pajamas, don't fix your hair, just like,
yeah, be here to work.
Yeah, as you are.
As you are.
As you are.
As you are. 100%. Yes. It is what we believe in.
Season 3.
I know.
Season 3. I'm so excited.
Wow.
What do we want this season to be? Adam.
What do we want this season to be?
Yeah.
I think we want, and I think this season will be, knowing who we have coming up.
Yeah.
I think this season might be, in the best way, a season of challenges, because knowing some of the stories that we are broaching with people, there are some challenging topics and challenges.
It's hard out there right now.
It is hard out there right now.
Yeah.
And again, knowing the stories coming up, and some of the folks we're going to be talking to, not all of those challenges are resolved.
Right. Right.
So, we've had amazing, wonderful guests who have been so inspirational and so successful and shared so many successes and also obstacles toward those successes. But we have a lot of discussions coming up about some yet
I'd
unresolved.
say we're getting some people that are like in the middle.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Like-
That's it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm very
in the middle.
excited
I think
about
that's
that.
good.
Yeah.
Very excited.
There's a
about
lot
that.
to learn when you're in the middle.
Oh
Yes.
my God.
When you're
Yes.
not in
and a lot for the rest of us to learn.
Yeah.
Oh
Yes.
my
From other
goodness.
people who are in the middle.
Absolutely.
We're-
Absolutely.
Are we in the middle?
Are we
We're
in?
in the-
Yeah, we're
We're in the middle.
We're in the middle. Vogue show.
Perpetually.
Perpetually in the middle.
We're fine with it. It's good. We're
but
good.
like,
Great. We love it here.
Love and all of this, and the perpetually in the middle, I think, is also the reality.
Yeah.
That
Is
like
most of the time,
is most of the
that's-
time for everybody.
Oh, 100%.
And with the topics that we're focusing on here, as Adam is saying, seeing people in the peak of being in the middle. So all of us have some sort of in the middle we are in some facet of our lives. But if we are looking at these kind of like professional journeys, what it is to be in the middle and how hard it can be to have that hindsight when you're in the thick of it,
Yeah.
when you very much feel like I got to have that foresight.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to get out of the season, Kathleen?
Time with y'all,
Yeah.
right?
I mean,
Forced
it's always the best.
fun.
Forced
Forced
fun.
fun, everybody.
Lock them in a room
Yeah.
with mics on.
Yeah,
mean-
surprise. We're going to do some circles, some trust
Yes,
circles.
I'm in. I will catch all of you in my heart and arms.
That's my night.
To those of you who were not on camera, Adam made some good faces to the trust circles.
To this couch hates forced fun.
Yeah, that's right.
These chairs, however, we're the orange
This
chair
couch is
gals.
very anti.
right.
I'm gonna go get something out of my car really quick. I'm not coming back.
Zooms away.
You
Yeah.
just come as
Yeah.
you are,
That's
okay?
right.
Yeah, yeah. But I think, right, like
Yeah.
I genuinely am excited to spend more time with y'all always, and the people that are going to come in. And I'm really curious to hear what y'all say about this question, because I think that's what I always want to bring is that curiosity. And like,
Mhm.
Adam, so glad you kicked us off because anything you say is always just so rich.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That guy.
Can I get a footnote on that, please?
Yeah.
Yes.
JK.
Yes.
JK.
My way. I will always.
A
So,
lot of people who'd argue with you.
well, I will ready for you.
Libby, what about you? What do you want to get out?
Well, first of all, this season I'm gonna make a change and have us wear pajamas. I told Leslie before I got here, I was like, I really don't want to put hard pants on. It felt like a lift this
It
morning.
does, yeah.
No, but really, I, of course, love spending time with you guys. I love the conversations that we get to have with people. I also just love talking to people in all different phases of their business, their art, whatever they're doing. I enjoy everyone, but I love when we're able to have local people too, and kind of have a and starting to see, you know, what the potential impact of Ensō on our Austin community could be, I think is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'm also with Adam though. I do think it's cool that we have a lot of people that are kind of more in the middle. I think a lot of people are feeling that with, you know, just the struggles of, I mean, I know clients I have that are, you know, looking for jobs, like the economy and just, and it's really hard for small businesses right now, and regardless of what you do. So I think that it's one of those nice things to kind of hear like, okay, we really are all like in this together, and everyone is experiencing these same things.
100%.
And how are we getting through it?
Yeah, I love that. You've heard me use this phrase a lot, but like that we're all in the same storm. It's just all of our boats look a little bit different.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What's Ensō's boat? What does our boat look like?
It's probably like a yacht.
Yeah.
Probably something from
Below deck.
Yeah.
below deck. Exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we get some
All
more
right,
clients, maybe
yeah,
someday.
Leslie. Yeah.
That's right.
Exactly. All right. Well,
Well, hold on.
What about you?
Leslie.
Yeah.
Oh, what do I
Right.
want to get out of it?
Yeah,
You
girl.
know, I just love learning from people who are really working to make a statement in whatever it is that they're doing. And you know, and I love finding the alignment and the things that, you know, that are similar. And I also love like hearing about the things that are a little bit different or a little bit more, you know, nuanced. But for me, it's just like getting to talk to these people and learn more about where they are in their journey and it's just a lot of fun for me. Also, I like you guys, so this is always fun. And I love all the people at Record ATX.
Shout
they're
out.
so great.
Oh, they're
Yeah,
the
they're
best.
so great.
So
We love Record ATX.
Yep, awesome. All right, well, you guys,
Season
this was
3.
fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, season 3.
Yeah. Oh, I
Season 3 on 1, 2, 3.
Oh, no.
Oh,
This couch said we're out.
off to the car.
Yeah, we said. Nope.
More to come on that
Yeah.
one.
Season 4.
Yeah.
Maybe season
We'll
4.
hope for that.
We'll
We'll
see.
hope for
Yeah,
that
if
for
we can
Kathleen.
get there.
1, 2, 3. Season 4.
Well, thank you guys as always.
Yes.
And to everybody who's listening, please subscribe to the As You Are podcast on all channels. Check us out on ensocc.com as well if
You
you're
can come to our
curious
yacht
about
party.
us.
Yeah, to our yacht party. And going to our website, by the way, we should always pitch this. You can schedule a free 30-minute strategy session.
Yes.
You are
True.
listening right now. Schedule a free effing call.
It really is free.
Yeah.
It's
It really is
free.
free.
$8.99.
No strings attached. We will not pressure you.
You
We
get to
will
see these faces up
That's right.
close.
That's right.
That's right. Well, thank you guys again. Really appreciate you all. And we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.